we're talking about Lot running away, and then the Malach says to him, "Don't look back." What pasuk was that? Yud Tes Yud Zayin, page 86. Page 86. So the Malach says, let's just read the pasuk again. 3 lines from the bottom. It says, "Vayehi kehotziam osam hachut." So when he took them out, the angel takes them out. Vayomer himolet al nafshecha. Says, run for your life. Al tabit acharecha. Don't look back. Val tamod b'chol hakikor. Yahora himolet pentisova. Run to the mountain. Right. Head for the hills, as the old saying goes. So this idea of not looking back. The idea of not looking back. So we mentioned yesterday several things. You don't deserve to look back, and what do you call it? Don't look back and regret the things you're leaving behind. But there's another idea here which I think is very important for all of us to know, is that when a person makes a life change, a person becomes a Baal Tshuva, and a person could have done all sorts of things which perhaps by Torah law were objectively inappropriate. Here also, Lot, you're running away. You're turning over a new leaf. You're leaving still. Don't look back. Don't look back. Forget about your past. Just forget about it. And this is very important for Baal Tshuva. Sometimes Baal Tshuvas have this ridiculous, not ridiculous because I understand it, ridiculous because ridiculous in an objective sense, not on a personal level. I understand very much why people think this way. But sometimes the guy feels, boy, if I would have known about this before, I would have become from sooner, and I wish I wouldn't have done those affairs, everything else. That's ridiculous objectively. Because it wasn't your fault. I understand on a personal level because we're human beings, and human beings can be very, very unreasonable, emotionally unreasonable, which is acceptable, even men sometimes. But thanks for laughing. But the human beings can be emotionally unreasonable. But honestly, was it your fault? Your fault. You weren't raised that way, so it's not your fault. So but you made the choice right now. And you made the right choice. So don't look back. What are you looking back for? It's got nothing to do with you. It's got absolutely nothing to do with you. And therefore, now you're turning over a new leaf. You're turning over a new leaf, and you've turned over a new leaf, right? So forget about it. It's over. What's done is done. Not only what's done is done, it wasn't even your fault. So what are you looking back for? So the Malach is saying to Lot, move forward. Head for the hills. Head for the mountains. Start climbing. Start moving up in life. Start moving up. And leave it behind you. Leave it behind you. Just forget about it. Total detachment. Number one. Number two, why can't he look back? I want you to see, I don't know if Rashi or one of the Meforshim brings it down, because when Hashem is destroying the city, the Shechina is there. Rashi doesn't bring it. Rashi just says you're not worthy of seeing the punishment. But the Shechina, the divine presence, is there. The divine presence is back in stone. Hashem comes in to destroy the angels, Hashem, the divine presence is there. You don't deserve to have a look at that right now. There's something supernatural taking place. You don't deserve to have a look. Don't look back, because when you look back, you'll see the divine Shekhinah, the divine presence behind you. So don't look back. You don't deserve that right now. You're not on a high enough level. You're escaping by the skin of your teeth. You can't go look back where Hashem is performing some sort of act right now, symbolically. But I saw one of the commentaries also takes it slightly out of context, but it's very interesting. In life, that means if you would look back in life, gentlemen, you'd see the divine presence. You can't look back because the divine presence is there. But if you would look back, you'd see it. That means on a personal level. I mean, sometimes if you look back in your life, you'll see, as events were taking place, you were clueless. But often when you look back, you say, oh yeah, Hashem was right there. Oh yeah. If I told, oh yeah, you'd see, don't look back, Lot, because Hashem is there. So then that means anybody who else looks back, you will see Hashem in your life. And often it's only with hindsight that you see it. Often in hindsight, if I told you how I ended up here, you wouldn't believe it. You would be a believer. That you would be. And sometimes I look back and I see how I was just taken by the hand and led through. And the older you get, the more you look back and you just say, boy, am I glad I didn't do what I wanted to do. Yeah, am I glad it didn't work out the way I had planned it? If it would have worked the way I had planned it, I'd be in prison by now. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you just see, it'll take you all, and then every individual has that in their life. You look back and you'll see how certain things which you didn't understand and why did it happen, and all of a sudden, sometimes down the line, the pieces fall in place. So I say, ooh, was that smart? Oh, that was clever. Right? And you see how it works out. Okay, now let's go on to something also somewhat esoteric. Lot goes off to the mountains.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, please.
Were they being escorted out by an angel?
The angel, what the Torah says, the angel picked them up and placed them out there.
Okay.
All right, the angel picked them up and placed out. The angel apparently has. First of all, there are in descriptions in the Gemara and in the Midrash, and angels are not. Whatever you think an angel looks like, he doesn't. It doesn't. Whatever if you could picture it, that means it's not it. And there are descriptions of angels who are bigger than the entire earth itself. And so we're picturing angels as, it's kind of with a little thing, little wings flying around, Twinkie, No. The angels, whatever you could picture it, whatever you could picture an angel as. I think the Ramban says that an angel is a manifestation of God's presence, whatever it means. It's esoteric. You can certainly investigate it, but I can't tell you any more about that. I'll get you 1 second, but I can't tell you any more about it. Point is, the angel picks him up, whatever that means, and he places him outside the city.
My question is, when she looked back, was she being escorted by the angel, or was it after the fact?
Yeah, no, the angels took him out and put him out. They put him out there. And when they went, they said, run, don't look back. They started running, and she looked back. That's after the angels already put him outside the town. Okay. Now, let's go. Yeah, Ben, what were you going to ask?
You say that whatever we picture an angel to be, it's not.
Right.
But in later prophets, I think, in Ezekiel,
it describes them.
It describes what an angel looks like.
Right, and whatever he looks like, it's right. It describes what he looks like. And if you try to picture it, you'll still be off, even after hearing the description. Absolutely correct. You're describing in an intangible and physical form. You're describing it. I once saw a movie, Beyond and Back. It was all about people who died clinical death, and then they go and then they come back, right? So the guy on the screen, the guy who's talking about his experience, he says, and I saw a light, and I saw a light in color, and it just could not be described. In the meantime, on the screen, they're flashing something, and the guy next to me was a real cynic. He goes, I thought he said he can't describe it. And there it is up on the screen. So that's because Hollywood decided to describe it, and Hollywood has basically distorted us in every area of life because we think of angels because of Hollywood's angels, right? So that's all. You're trying to take something at an intangible spiritual level and bring it into a physical form, which is a contradiction in terms itself. So whatever Yechezkel is talking about, he's talking about the deepest parts of Kabbalah and so on and so forth, but we can only read the words, but it doesn't mean, picture him flutter. There's a wing. I still can't picture it. Okay, so now they run. Bottom of page 88. Vayal Lot mitzoar vayeshev bahar. Lot leaves Tzoar and he goes to the mountain. Ushtei banav inosav imo. His 2 daughters are with him. Ki yorei l'sheves b'Tzoar. He was afraid to stay in this place called Tzoar, which is the first place he had run to. Vayeshev ba'me'ora hu ushtei v'nosav. He and his 2 daughters are in a cave. Now pay attention carefully. Vatomer ha'bechira el ha'tzeira. The older one says to the younger, we'll read a few psukim here, gentlemen. Read about page 90, third line. Top of page 90, third line. Second line. We're going to read about 6 or 7 psukim here. Vatomer ha'bechira el ha'tzeira. The younger one, the older one says to the younger one, Avinu zaken, our father is elderly. The ish ein bo aretz lavo aleinu kederech halarz. There is no man that can cohabit with us. They were convinced that the whole world was destroyed. All they saw was the destruction of around them. They had no way of knowing that anything else in the world survived also. I think people in Hiroshima must have thought that the world was destroyed. Right? And that's all I see. There are no men left. The only one man left in the world is our father. Let's get him drunk. Give him wine. Vinishkeva imo, we will lay with him. We will produce children from our father. They gave him wine to drink on that night. Anybody have a question so far? One question, very basic question. Very basic question. Anything, just right off the bat, a knee-jerk reaction.
Where did they get the wine?
Where do they get the wine? Very good. That's the question. Very good. Before we get to Alex's nightmares, which are going to make the salt look pale in comparison. It's going to make the salt. Just wait, Alex. That salt's going to look like pepper in a second, right? That's going to be that pillar of salt. Pillar of salt's going to dissolve in 1 second. And so they say, so they give him wine to drink. That's interesting. They got wine. How convenient. The older one lies with him. And he was so drunk, he didn't know about the whole incident. Didn't know when she was there, when she left. He didn't know anything about it. So the commentary said, well, afterwards he realized it. At the time he didn't. Afterwards he realized it, and he's criticized because he does not take precaution for the second night. You realize after the fact, you realize something, you realized it, and then he does not take a precaution and allows it to happen a second time, which means that's where his heart really was. Sometimes people get into a situation where something, I didn't know I accidentally ate these porculated pork chips because I thought they were kosher. I didn't realize. Why did you think they were? Well, I saw an OR in the corner, I thought that stood for Orthodox, and why do you go? And the truth of the matter is you were hoping and you were, it's not like you were if you're really careful, it wouldn't happen. Vahimi mocharos, the next day, Vatomer Abechir Elat Seira, the older one says to the younger one, Hein shachavti emesh es avi. I lay with my father, Nashkenu yain gam halayla. Let's get him drunk again tonight. Uboi v'shichvi imo nechayim avinazor. Now your turn. Vatashkena gam balayla huas avin yain. So they give him the wine. Vatakam hatseira vatishka v'imo. And then the younger one lay with him. V'lo yada b'shichvakum. And again, he doesn't know about it at the time. There's a halachic level of drunkenness. If you damage somebody when you're drunk, you're responsible. You break somebody's glasses when you're drunk. You're responsible. There's a level of drunkenness called shichruso shalot. If somebody is as drunk as lot, then you are considered completely unaware of where you are. Like your roommate in college. That's all. That's considered shichruso shalot. That's a special level where you don't even know you're absolutely, completely and utterly out of it. Okay, that's called shichruso shalot. Okay. Vataharena shtei benos Lot me'avihan. The two daughters of Lot get pregnant. Two more psukim. Vatelet abechira ben. The older one has a son. Vatikra shmo Moav, which sounds like Me'av, from my father. Very indiscreet. Hu avi Moav arayam. That is the father of Moav to this day. Ve'atzeira gam hi yolda ben. She also had a son. Vatikra shmo ben ami, son of my nation. Hu avi b'nei Ammon arayam. That's the father of Ammon. Okay, now let's see a Rashi here at the end, then we're going to go back to the beginning. It's the left column, third line from the top. Left column, third line from the top. Moav, toward the end of the line. Zu shelo haisa tsinua, this one who was not modest about it, was not discreet. Pirsha sheme'aviyahu, she made it pretty explicit that it comes from her father. The younger one called her a cleaner, a more refined expression, ben ami. V'kibla schar b'mei Moav. She was rewarded in b'mei Moshe. In the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, she was rewarded. Shenemar b'vnei Ammon al tiskor bam klal. Don't provoke, don't intimidate the descendants of Ammon. Uvemoav lo hizir. By Moab, the Jewish people didn't get that warning. Shelo yilachem ubam. They only got a warning not to fight them. Aval litzaran hitir lo. That means like this. Later on, we'll find that when the Jewish people are about to go in the land, they're going to pass by the lands of Ammon and Moab. So the Torah says, when you pass by the Moabites, don't fight them. But you're allowed to intimidate them. You can pull out your swords, start sharpening them, make little comments. Boy, this would be perfect for a Moabite neck. As you walk past, I wonder, walk past, two guys can walk past. Hey, Reuven, should we go out and have some Moabite target practice today? Start getting some moving hit. Let's see who could play. Who could hit the moving Moabite. But you're not allowed to do it. But you're allowed to intimidate them. Ammon, nothing. Walk past. Don't frighten them. Why? It was a reward for what happened over here in the cave, because she was more discreet. Okay, that begs a question. Because she was more discreet. But the Gemara says the older one took the initiative. And as a result of that, you know what she gets? She gets Mashiach. Mashiach comes from Moab. Rus is the Moabite. And from this union, Mashiach is going to come on the maternal side. On the father's side, it comes from the tribe of Yehuda. On the mother's side, it comes from Moab. And that line eventually meets when Boaz, in the Megillus Rus story, Boaz, who comes from Yehuda, marries Rus, the Moabite convert, and the two of them get married, and then they have the Davidic line, which eventually produces Mashiach. Okay, so you got over here a very interesting contrast. On the one hand, she's rewarded, she gets a Mashiach. On the other hand, you're a bit indiscreet about this whole thing. And then you have the other one, who you're rewarded for your discretion, but you didn't have the merit of having the Mashiach. So one of the things you learn here in life is that every action a person does, you can do a great thing, and within that great thing, you could have two levels. You could be rewarded for certain things, and you could be taken to task for other things. You could help a little old lady, walk a little old lady down the street and help her, but at the same time, you'll be punished for thinking to yourself, I think I'm one of the 36 tzaddikim of the generation. Does anybody realize my inherent greatness over here? So what you're doing, you're going to be rewarded for, and you'll be punished for your mindset. The two are not, they could coexist. That's not a problem in Judaism. In every action that we do, the actions are broken up into components. And some components are on a higher level of a given action, are on a higher level than another, number one. Number two, this whole thing is a bit bizarre. Children of the Father, of all places for Mashiach to come, number one. Number two, where did they get the wine, like Ben asked? Where did they get the wine? I mean, you're running away from a city that, can you imagine, let's take Hiroshima. Somebody's running away from Hiroshima. And as he's running, he says, by the way, just grab the wine, will you? If you could grab anything when you're leaving, you grab one thing in your house, what would you grab? Alcohol. Especially when you think that you're about to go anyway, so it may as well go well. So yeah, you're right, but you're wrong. I told you, I remember my 8th grade teacher, I thought this was so profound. My 8th grade teacher was a woman teacher. She said that if her house was ever on fire, the first thing she'd grab is the picture albums, because that's the thing that's irreplaceable. I remember as an 8th grader thinking that's profound. Wow, yeah, she's right. That's not what and then my next thought was, but I would grab my baseball glove. That was, pictures, I'll leave it to somebody else. I still want that baseball glove. But I read that idea, one thing you could grab. So the Gemara says there are two opinions. There's one opinion that the wine was put into the cave supernaturally. It was a miracle. The wine happened. Kosh Baruch Hu planted the wine in the cave, which should tell you right there that what?
It's all part of the plan.
It's all part of the plan. That means that puts what they did in a different perspective over here. Maybe what they did over here is being divinely orchestrated. There's another opinion that they used to store wine in caves. Right. And they happened across a cave. They had some of the wine stored, which is also divinely inspired that they should pick that particular cave. So the Gemara says that their intentions were good. They thought the world was coming to an end. They just said, we got to keep the world going. We have to keep the world going. They thought there are no more men in the world. Their intentions were good. So it's interesting because if somebody would ask you, did you ever hear, if somebody would ask you, what's the ultimate secret? If you could ask Hashem one thing, what would you like to know? Any frum Jew, there's one thing we'd all like to know.
When will you die?
That's on an individual level.
When is the Mashiach?
When is Mashiach coming? Come on, just tell me already. Come on. Just me. I won't tell anybody, really, I promise. Right? Just tell me, what's Mashiach? That's the ultimate secret, right? So you know that there's a statement when somebody drinks, Nichnas yayin, the Gemara says the wine goes in, Nichnas yayin, yatsa sod, the secret comes out. When a person drinks, so they tend to be a little bit more chatty. You call chatty, we call loud and obnoxious. But whatever it is. Sometimes you see people who are drunk and all of a sudden they just start telling you all their personal problems and they say even get that sort of thing. Nichnas yayin yatsa sod. By the way, sod, which is secret, is a numerical value of 70. Samach, 60. Vav is 6. Dalet is 4. Sod is 70. Yayin, yud, 10. Yud, 10, Nun, 50 is wine. 70 goes in, 70 goes out. I mean, something's got to give, right? There can't be room for everybody. Nichnas yain, the wine goes in, out comes the secret. But isn't it interesting? The ultimate secret is Mashiach. When's Mashiach coming? The wine goes into this cave, and out of this cave comes Mashiach. Nichnas yain, yatsa sod. The wine goes in, and out of this cave comes the production. This begins the Messianic line. Now I'm going to tell you something. Alex, you ready? Okay, so there's actually an opinion that says like this. Why was the oldest sister so indiscreet? Why was she indiscreet? Moab, from my father. We can't come up with something better. So there's one of the commentaries says she either sensed, maybe it was some sort of a prophetic sense, whether she knew it or not, whether she was conscious of it or not. At some level, she sensed that there's going to be a Messiah who is rumored to be a divine production, what we call the Immaculate Conception. And she knew that the world is going to be swayed by that idea. And she wants right from the outset that people should know that's not where he comes from. The true Messiah, Moab, is of human form. The naming of him Moab, that she goes and indiscreetly says, it's from my father, world be aware. The ultimate Redeemer is a human being born of flesh and blood. The ultimate Redeemer is a human being born, not like the Immaculate Conception. To offset that Immaculate Conception, which kidnaps so much of mankind into a false belief. So right from the outset, she's setting Moab. Now, that Immaculate Conception, by the way, you know, you've heard of Franco Harris, right?
Yep.
Franco Harris played for Pittsburgh. I think, Mr. Fogel, I think we're the only ones in this room who are cultured and educated. Franco Harris played for Pittsburgh. It was a playoff game against Oakland, and sometime in the 70s. And it was the last play of the game, and Pittsburgh threw a desperate. They were down 4 points or 5 points. Pittsburgh threw a desperation pass about 30 yards upfield. One of the Oakland players batted the ball down. End of the game. Defensive guy batted the ball down. That's the end of the game. Franco Harris was a running back on Pittsburgh, happened to be right there, caught the ball, I think 2 or 3 inches off the ground, ran it in for a touchdown, and Pittsburgh won the game. They called it the Immaculate Reception. Right? There wasn't a kid in America in 1978 or whatever, who when you'd say to the kid the Immaculate Conception would immediately say, oh, Franco Harris. Right? They were convinced he was the man on the cross, right? Franco Harris. All he's missing is a football helmet. That was the Immaculate Conception. So she names it Moab in order to preempt that concept of an Immaculate Conception. Okay. Now, the other question, and this is the ultimate question, I think that really needs addressing. Why should Mashiach start here? Couldn't you come up with a better place for Mashiach to start than incest between a father and a daughter? That's where the Messianic line has to come. Why does that have to happen? And why does it have to be a daughter who's going to approach her? I mean, the whole thing is kind of gross. Why does Mashiach have? And we're going to see Avram Avinu is going to repulse. He's going to move away from here.
Maybe it's because no matter what our past is, our future, like you could change your future.
You're very close. You're on the right track. In other words, like this. Let's take a look at the Messianic relationships in general. The next time we find anything in the Messianic process down the line, you know where that is? Let's go. This is on the Moab side. Let's go to the other side. So first you start with a Yaakov and a Leah. Yaakov, who's going to be the father of Yehuda. Yaakov marries Leah, but he really thought it was Rachel. I mean, the whole thing, okay, so he ends up with Leah as his wife, but it really kind of okay. Then you have Yehuda. Who does he end up marrying? Tamar, his daughter-in-law. How did he meet her? Because she was standing at the crossroads like a harlot who he didn't know was his daughter-in-law. Because she had to entice him into marriage. Boy, that's sketchy. Ooh, that's sketchy. And then the Gemara says, well, he didn't really do anything wrong, and it was really permissible. Yeah, it's certainly not what you'd expect from the Rosh Hashiva's daughter. The whole thing is a little sketchy over there. Okay, so we move forward. All right, that's Yehuda and Tamar. Then the Messianic line continues on till you get all the way down to Rus and Boaz and Rus. And where do they meet? At the granary at midnight. Right, where nobody should see her, right? Ooh, that's interesting. And then where does it go to? She finally gets a David HaMelech. And David HaMelech ends up marrying Bathsheba, because he had her father killed at the battlefront, so he could marry his wife. Oof, right? And then what comes out of that? Then you get a Mashiach. Then Mashiach, King Shlomo. Then you finally get that's the Messiah. Everywhere you look in the Messianic line, things look a little bit buzzy. Or as the English say, dodgy, right? That's a dodgy relationship. And at the end of the day, you're going to find every one of those relationships was technically kosher. Every one of them was recognized. Remember, we were speaking here yesterday about, is that a cheapie? But it works. It's a cheapie, but it works, right? So that is so cheap. That is so cheap. It's like pretending to call timeout and then knocking the ball away for the opponent and taking it down. It has so cheap. Yeah, but it works. As long as it's within the rules, it works. So every one of these relationships, when you look at hindsight, is going to be kosher. But it's certainly not what somebody would have gotten involved with lichatchila. No, you go, ooh, why? Ooh, and everywhere. And then what do you end up? You end up with Mashiach on one side. You end up with a bunch of dodgy kosher relationships. And on the other side, you end up with incest from the mother's side. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. So there are two explanations. One explanation we'll understand. The other explanation you won't understand. I'll just tell you what the commentaries say, and then you'll do with it what you want. The first and basic explanation is exactly what you say. Mashiach, who is going to be the leader of the Jewish people, will have to relate to every person. And the Gemara says, never appoint a communal leader unless he has a closet full of, a box, what the wording of the Gemara is, a box of reptiles behind him. And what we got the skeletons in the closet, right? That way you can't lord yourself over anybody else. The Mashiach is going to have to be humble, deal with every Jew, and therefore he has humble beginnings too, to keep him and everybody else in line. There's a Kabbalistic explanation. This comes from the Alshich. The Alshich was one of the great Kabbalists who used to be in Tzfas, in the group with the Arizal and so on and so forth. The Alshich says like this: there are certain forces, back up. There are certain neshamas that have to come into the world. These neshamas are on a very high level. The neshama of Mashiach is one of those neshamas that has to be released into this world. There are what's called kochos hatuma, forces of evil, that will do everything they can to prevent this neshama coming into the world. The only way this neshama could survive their onslaught is if the neshama is camouflaged, where those forces of evil, are convinced nothing good is going to come of this anyway. So when the neshama of Mashiach is put into the world, it's always transmitted through these very questionable relationships. Because then the forces of evil, the kochos hara, they take a look and say, well, nothing's going to come out of this anyway. I mean, look at this, yeah, that's pretty dodgy. Nothing's going to come out of this. Don't start asking me questions about how they can be deceived and so on and so forth. I have no idea. But that's just telling you what the Kabbalists say. And therefore, Mashiach's neshama is transmitted all the way through in a very kind of a bumpy course until it reaches its ultimate goal where he could reveal himself. But it's moved along in an area which is just inside the out-of-bounds line. Right? But it's just inside the out-of-bounds line. And as Mashiach, what do you call it, as it's transmitted, it's all these very questionable and dubious relationships in order to, you know where else we find an example of this? When Yaakov Avinu comes to Lavan after working, he says, okay, I've worked for you. Let me have my wife that I may cohabit with her. Let me have your daughter. He's supposed to marry his daughter. Let me have my wife so I can cohabit with her. Imagine a guy who's engaged going up to his father-in-law and says, okay, time to get married. I want to cohabit with her. That's somewhat indiscreet. So Rashi says, even the crudest of the crude doesn't speak like that. A truck driver with a Marlboro and a beer wouldn't speak that way to his future father-in-law, right? He wouldn't speak that way. So Rashi says, yeah. So why did he do it? He had to produce the shvatim. He had to produce it. Time to get married. At some point, he's going to have the 12 shvatim. So the commentaries say, you know what Rashi is really telling you? The neshamas of the 12 shvatim are on such a high level. Yaakov Avinu knew that if he remains as a Yaakov Avinu, those kochos hara are going to object to those neshamas coming into this world. They're going to do everything they can to interfere. So what does he do? He goes incognito. Talks like a truck driver. He comes in and says, all right, let me have her so I can cohabit. The minute the forces, the kochos hara, here, there, they're all right, boys, let's go. No work to do around here. We'll be okay, right? That way he can bring the neshamas of the shvatim. That's what the Alshich says. That's what the Alshich says. And therefore, this entire section over here is a section of producing. It's laying the groundwork for Mashiach. Okay. Yeah. Question. Go ahead.
What happened to the son-in-laws at this point?
Son-in-laws are history. The son-in-law is left. We see on the previous page here on page 86. right in the middle of the page. Good you asked that, man. I'll show you something very, very remarkable here. Take a look at this. Once you brought it up. On page 86, Pasuk Yud Daled. Vayetze Lot, it's about 10 lines from the bottom. Pasuk Yud Daled. Vayetze Lot, this is after the angels have spoken and said they're going to destroy the city. Now pay attention very carefully, gentlemen. Vayetze Lot, Vayedaber el Chasanav. Lot goes out and he speaks to his son-in-laws. Lokche benosov. Vayomer, he says, Kumutze umina mokom hazeh, get up and leave this place. Ki mashchis Hashem ezeir, because Hashem is destroying the city. Vayi kimetzachek beinei chasanav. They thought he was a madman. He was a mishuganer. Well, how does the article translate mitzachek? A jester. I mean, it's like a guy walking. What is your impression of a guy walking downtown Manhattan and say, repent, the world's coming to an end, right? In downtown Manhattan, you've seen it, right? Or downtown London. What's your reaction? Another one who escaped, right? Another one. He managed to get the straitjacket off. Yeah, he's out of the happy home for a day. Right? Well, what do you think? You're in the most prosperous city in the world. And your father-in-law, who anyway you probably think's a nut. And your father-in-law comes over and says, okay, guys, pick everything up. We got to go on. God's going to destroy the city. That's a good one, right? Oh, wait, you lost your marbles? What, all of a sudden you're a prophet? We know what kind of low life you are. All of a sudden you're a prophet. You're getting profession. Can you imagine? What should their reaction be? So they laugh. Well, they laugh and they don't leave, but they die. Now, I'll tell you a deeper insight here. Take a look at that pasuk very carefully. Have you ever heard the idea, the difference between Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and the name of Elokim? What is Elokim? Judgment, strict judgment. What is Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei? Mercy. Now look at what he says to them. Tzeu mina makom hazeh ki mashchis Yud Kei Vav Kei es ha'ir. The merciful God is destroying the city. And Pasuk Yud Daled. Right? Imagine somebody said to you, the sweet, good, merciful God is about to drop an atomic bomb. What are you, a lunatic? What are you, out of your mind? If anything, you should have said, Elokim is going to destroy the city. They say, boy, are you confused? Boy, are you confused? The sweet, merciful God is going to destroy the city, right? So they say, this guy's out of his mind. This guy's lost his rocker. Yasser Arafat, after the Oslo Accords, so he said they're going to have a jihad on Jerusalem. They just signed the peace treaty. He was in South Africa, calling for a jihad on Jerusalem. So the Israeli politicians were upset. They said to the Americans, hey, somebody say, we just made a peace treaty. So the Americans said to Arafat, come on, fix it up, will you? It's like one of those, my words were taken out of context. One politician says, my opponent is an incompetent idiot. And they say, my words were taken out of context. Yeah, sure. So he said to Arafat, could you please fix that up? So Arafat said, I made a jihad of peace. So they spoke to scholars of Arabic, and the scholars of Arabic said there is no such thing as a jihad. It's like saying, let's have a friendly nuke. That's what a jihad of peace is, right? That's a jihad of peace. So to come and say the merciful God's going to destroy the city doesn't make any sense. Why did he say it that way? Why did he say it that way? So they draw an analogy. Imagine there's a kid. Kid is starving. Kid's hungry. Father is walking over, and he wants to feed his baby. Baby's hungry. Father's coming over with some food for the baby. Some guy gets in his way, and he blocks his path. Excuse me, I got to get over to feed the kid. No. Please move. I want to feed the kid. No. So the father starts fighting, and he decks the guy. Would you say that was a punch of Midas Hadin or a punch of Midas Harachamim? Why is it Midas Harachamim?
I think it's both.
He has mercy on his kid. He has mercy on his kid. The people of Sodom, God is the Father. God wants to bring prosperity to the world. But when people are corrupt, they're blocking the rest of the world from enjoying the prosperity. God withholds the prosperity from the entire world because of the corruption. So God overturns Sodom. Why is he overturning Sodom? He's got the rest of the world to take care of. That's the Father. It's a destruction of mercy on the rest of the world. Therefore, Lot uses the Shem Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei. All right, see you tomorrow.